Welcome to AAPC Social Hour for August 24th, 2022. And I am Alex McKinley from the AAPC National Office. And I am just making sure we are going live. I see there are two people watching right now. Hello, whoever you may be. Let us know where you're at, where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And let us know what the weather's like out in your neck of the woods. With me today, and we'll introduce them again as everybody starts to trickle in. I have Gregg Hatch and Anita Kangat from the AAPC National Office. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Great.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having
You're welcome.
us.
And let's see. Oh, we've got Katie Shepard, who's writing in and watching from from Maine. And she says it's cloudy out there. I am in Salt Lake, or just in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, and it is sunny. It's cooling off. I feel like fall is trying to creep its head in, which I'm okay with. I'm ready for the cooler weather. Gregg, where are you, and what's the weather like?
I'm in North Carolina, and also feels like fall has started. It's still pretty warm and humid here, but feels like fall is starting to peek through it. It's partly cloudy. It's a nice day out.
Teresa Bennett is watching from Memphis, and she says it's a little cloudy out there. Teresa, will you be joining us in Nashville in May of 23 for our national conference? Let us know. We'd love to see you there and love to get to meet you. Anita, you're in the most exotic place. Tell us where you are and what the weather's like.
Well, I'm joining you from the UAE, and the weather is pretty much hot out here. It's nighttime out here, and it's 9 p.m. on the clock. It's dry and hot.
Is there any variation from that? Do you have a rainy season, a cooler season?
We've never seen rains. It's only cloud seeding that shows us a few droplets, which of course comes in a very dirty form and dirties all our cars out here. But otherwise, there's nothing called rain out here. There's just a 1 day or 2 day rain, like just for a seasonal change. But otherwise, we never see rains. It's only hot pretty much throughout the year, but yes, it's going to be cooler as we approach November and December.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. I know I am, and I know that I don't have to endure quite the heat that you have, probably by a long shot. Our friend Victoria, who's on the AAPCCA board of directors, she's at Disney. She says Disney. I don't know if it's Disneyland or Disney World. I feel like she told me she was going to Disney World, but she says it is hot. So she may be standing in long lines. I don't know, maybe they aren't so long because school has started. And so the families are back to normal routines. So maybe she's picked the right time to go. But Victoria, I'm jealous. Have tons of fun. Say hi to Mickey for us. And let's see here. We've got Amber Jovel from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Same here as Gregg. Southern humidity is among us. Gregg, is it just like you step out and you feel like you're sweating all the time?
Yeah. Although it's at least in the evening, it's starting to get a little bit cool. I'm not sure if it's the same thing in Chattanooga, but that's nice. It starts to feel a little bit cool in the evenings. It's hard when it's hot and humid even at night.
Yeah. Hey, our friend in Memphis, Teresa Bennett, she says in capital with many exclamations, yes, she will be in Nashville. So, Teresa, please introduce yourself to all of us. I don't know if Anita's going to make it. We'd love to see Anita if you can make it to Nashville. But Gregg, I would imagine you'll be there.
Planning on it. Yeah, looking forward to it. Okay. I'd love to get Anita there as well.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. So we've got Kim Thrasher from Southern California, our friend Caitlin Brock from the AAPC National Office jumping in. Hello, Caitlin. Hope things are well in your neck of the woods. Oh boy, here's a good one. Dorette Johnson. Good afternoon from Nassau, Bahamas. And I think I dropped in on there on a cruise once. So I'm
We all want
jealous.
to be there.
Yeah. Well, I have these amazing people that I work with me who work with AAPC's international efforts. We're going to talk a little bit about what kind of things we have going on there, how we're helping healthcare systems abroad. But first, we have a few people who are going to jump in and share a little bit about what's happening with AAPC and some hiring efforts that we have. Let me see. I've got one of the people there. Waiting for one more. Let me just check. All right, we're going to bring Jessica Whitney in from AAPC Services. We have Lamidi from Nigeria. Do we have anything going on in Nigeria, Gregg?
We do. We have had discussions with a few different organizations, individuals there. So I'd be interested to find out more about her.
Okay, yeah. Hey, Lamidi, I hope I'm saying your name right. Stick with us, and maybe we can learn a little bit more about healthcare systems in Nigeria. It sounds like we've been making some efforts there. Jessica Whitney is back for 2 social hours in a row. Hey, hey.
Hi, Alex. How
How are
you?
you? I'm great.
Good. I don't know. I'm just on the heels of a nice vacation on the Oregon coast, so
I'm sure it's nice. Nice
still
and
have
cool
beach
there.
in the mind.
Yeah.
It was a cool 68 degrees pretty much every single day. So that was a nice break from the heat.
Awesome. Awesome. And I don't know if you know Gregg and Anita from AAPC International.
I do not.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi there. It's
Nice to
nice to
meet
meet
you.
you guys.
You as well.
Hi, Jessica.
Jessica, you work with AAPC Services. Do we call it? It used to be called AAPC Audit Services, I believe. And where are we on the name? Is it AAPC Services or
we
Audit?
refer to ourselves as AAPC Services. I don't know.
Okay.
We've been referred to as several different things. We provide more than audit services, so we prefer AAPC Services because we've got several different lines of business.
Okay. All right. And we have Afi from our HR team who may be coming on in just a minute. Now, I know there were some job postings recently
Yes.
on the services side. And Jessica, would you just talk to those just for a little bit?
Sure. We're actually, we are growing a lot at AAPC Services. And so we actually have several different positions open. We've got employee positions open. The way our business model works is that we work with both employees and contractors. So, depending upon the specialties and that sort of thing. So we've got positions for both open, but we've got several positions open, one for a senior project lead. We've got an audit coordinator position open. Those folks really kind of help prep the audits and get them ready and roll them out. We have got a risk supervisor, up to 10 risk coder auditor type positions. And then we also have regular coder positions for emergent and urgent care services. So we've got lots of those positions open. Folks can definitely just go to the aapc.com website, scroll down to the bottom, I believe, and just click on careers. I'm sure Afi can probably speak a little bit more to that. But we're also always hiring contractors for various lines of business that kind of cover all of those different service lines. Specifically now we're looking for risk coders and auditors. Afi can speak a little bit more to that, and kind of what the process is.
So real quick, hey Afi.
Hi, how are you?
So we are great. We are just hanging out, talking about working at AAPC. And I think I don't know, for those watching, you may not know that AAPC does hire coders, not just for education, but for coding as well. So Jessica just spoke to opportunities that are there and some that may be coming in the future. And I think those who are watching, especially the new coders, might be thinking, does AAPC hire CPCAs and things like that? Jessica, could you speak to that?
Sure. Typically in our department, because we have a very, very diverse service line, we're doing revenue cycle management services, which includes our coding services. We also do Obviously auditing, all different types of auditing. So coding and auditing are a little bit different, require a different skill set. Do a lot of education and training of coders, auditors, physicians, mid-level providers, that sort of thing. We typically don't hire CPCAs at AAPC services, just because the bandwidth of knowledge that somebody has to have really to do all of those various specialties. That's not to say that it hasn't happened. We do require that anybody that applies fills out a skills test, and that it's it's 30 minutes max. Skills test. And so it just kind of depends upon somebody's skill set, but really to work with all the different specialties that we work with, you have to have you have to be a little seasoned. Most of our jobs require a certain number of years, specific number of years, coding or auditing.
With that said, I know there are initiatives being discussed at AAPC on how we can bring in and help those CPCAs right out of the gate. There's the high performing CPCAs, I guess, like, I don't want to get too far into it because it's all in the works, but so you could look out for that. But if you are a seasoned coder, you may want to look into, and you're considering new work, consider AAPC services. Katie Shepard, who's watching, she asked, are any of these positions remote?
They're all remote. Every single one of them is remote. Yeah, but pretty much most of us, at least who work in AAPC services, there's one or two people that live in the Utah area, which is where the home office is. Almost all of us just work all across the country.
Jessica, where are you located?
I'm in Idaho. I'm outside of Boise, Idaho.
Okay, all right. That's what I love about AAPC is, well, I know for work-life balance, it's nice to be home and you're off work and then you can go to the kids' game or mow the lawn, whatever task you've got ahead of you. But we mentioned about Gregg being on East Coast, and Anita is in UAE. Afi is probably about an hour or two north, but we do see each other at company parties and stuff occasionally. Afi, tell us why AAPC is an amazing place to work.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? So actually, for those that don't know, I'm in the Human Resources Department, and I started here last October, and AAPC has been wonderful, wonderful. Besides just wonderful people to work with, we have a remote hybrid work environment, which for me personally has been just wonderful, because as Alex mentioned, you can, get the work done, but it also gives you the flexibility to spend time with friends and family, or, take care of your physical health, whether that be taking an hour quickly going for lunch, for a run. And that's one of the greatest things about AAPC, I believe. But then also, we are just a rapidly growing industry. In general, healthcare is not going away. And for those that want to be involved in healthcare in a growing industry, in a stable industry, but not maybe be in the clinical world where you have to be in the office, this is perfect. So that's another plus for AAPC. And then also we have these wonderful values, which I'm not going to get into much, but one of the values is being scrappy. And, some people love it, some people don't love it, but I think a majority of candidates and employees love the fact that they can pull up their sleeves. We're small enough yet big enough that we can actually make a difference as an employee. So if you're willing to come in and share ideas and be proactive and roll up your sleeves, this is a great place to grow. So I don't want to take up too much, Alex. Just let me know if you want me to talk about some of our open positions or not, but.
Yeah, well, I love that you brought up scrappy, and when you bring in that scrappy mentality, I feel like it allows you to be more agile. Like if we need to make a decision, it doesn't have to go through heaps of hurdles. We can get right to the top really quick because our leader, Bevan, he prides himself in being scrappy, and we get things done. So outside of the healthcare world, we have other positions and I know we mainly have coders and healthcare professionals watching, but they may have family or friends who are looking for employment. And Afi, would you just tell us about a few of those jobs that are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like everybody has friends and family out there, right? And who want to work at a great company. So we have a lot of open positions. The best way to find out what they are or where to look is to go to aapc.com. And then underneath on the bottom, there's a page called careers. It's a little bit hard to find, but share that feedback with everybody. But we have positions in sales, we have account executive positions, we have entry-level sales development reps, we have software engineers, we have a huge project we're working on. So our software engineering team is growing rapidly. Lots of great opportunities for anybody with tech and software engineering experience. We have positions in distant learning, obviously audit services. So we have positions everywhere, except for clinical positions. How's that? So yeah,
Yes.
many exciting opportunities.
And it takes amazing people to support our members in the various ways that we do things like the app. We just don't go out and buy some canned app. We've got people, programmers who develop those things and managing the website. And as AAPC membership grows, which it has exponentially over the last 10 years, it's been crazy. But as membership grows, so does the support staff. We have to have the resources to be able to provide you what you need. All right, let's see here. Before you guys go, there are a few comments. Kim Thrasher, she asks, what is your group name? I'm prepping for my certification. I might be interested in your group. I'm not sure what that's in relation to, so let us know, Kim. There is the AAPC general Facebook group, and that has tens of thousands, over 40,000 members, student coders to veteran coders who can help you out. Caitlin Brock, who I think you guys know, she says AAPC is the best place I've ever worked. Indiana in here with a heart. So whoop, whoop. That's right. And for the jobs that Jessica spoke about, we posted about them on our Facebook page a few days ago. So if you go to our Facebook page where you're likely watching this from and just scroll down, you'll see an announcement about those positions. There'll be more in the future. Jessica, what's the best way for those interested in audit service or service jobs, AAPC services jobs, to find out about the most recent listings?
I would do exactly what Afi just suggested, which is go to the aapc.com homepage. And if you scroll down to the bottom, just click on careers. Right when you click on that, it's going to bring up a list of everything that we've got open. Like I said, we've got full-time employee positions open. We've got contractors, risk, profi, all different types of opportunities for, coders and auditors out there with different types of experience.
Wonderful. I posted a direct link to that careers page that you guys spoke about. That's in the comments. So if you're watching, that's in there. Just scroll up a little bit and you'll find it. Jessica, I want to say see you later, because I know we will see each other again soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And Afi and I were talking earlier, and I said, hey, we need to have you back on more regularly just to share why it's amazing to work at AAPC and the different benefits and just what's going on. You are plugged into the heart and soul of what's happening. So thanks for joining us, you guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank
Anytime.
you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Dave Kaiser, who you guys may know, he must be bored working. Dave, speaking of employees, he's another great friend that we get to work with here at AAPC. And you may know him if you've been to AAPC conferences. But he says, I want to work with AAPC, Alex. So that's his dream. He gets that.
He's living the dream.
That's right. Let's see, we've got Lady Martinez. Hey, Lady, I think was featured in Healthcare Business Monthly recently. So hey there, Lady, thanks for joining us today. Okay, we have some international members who have joined us, you guys. Prajwal, okay, and they're gonna have to forgive me for trying to say their names. Prajwal Reddy says, I'm trying for some position in AAPC. I am from India. Can I get those details? So go to the link. Predgewall that I posted up above, and you'll see the different links, or the link up there to the different careers available. Chandrakshar says AAPC is best to learn for new innovations. Thank you. We try to stay on top of that and provide services for our members that that will help them in their careers. We also have someone from the Philippines who jumped in. Rachel. Hey, Rachel, let us know, are you a student or are you currently working as a coder? So I think it's awesome and very timely that we have international members and students who have joined us. So let's start with this. Again, for those who are just jumping in, we've got Gregg and Anita from AAPC International. Anita, tell us about your background in healthcare and how you landed at AAPC.
Well, Alex, I started in the UAE itself. I mean, I came from India midway, and I started my journey in the UAE back in 2007. Worked with key providers. I was very fortunate to have my career all along with all the key providers in Abu Dhabi. And after that, I moved as a compliance auditor with the health authority out here. And thereafter, I was absorbed by AAPC, and I just made it out there. So it was like from provider to the health authority, and then finally I'm in AAPC at the moment. So I'm an HIM graduate. And I've done my RHIT as well from Mahima, as well as I have my key credentials of CPCI and CPMA and stuff like that.
Okay, and this is the industry you've been in for your career.
Yes.
And you're
absolutely.
You're a native to UAE.
I'm a resident in UAE, and I'm a native to India.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about your background, Anita. Gregg, how about yourself?
Sure, thanks, Alex. So I joined AAPC as a vice president with AAPC International just over a year ago. And prior to that, I had spent most of my career working for hospitals and health systems, helping to working with physician groups, billing offices, and in various leadership roles, spent some time consulting, had worked in some of those capacities with Dan Schwebach, who has been our senior vice president for our international teams. And so I had gotten to know Dan through some of that work, and that was my connection to AAPC. And since joining, have been working with Dan and Anita and the rest of our international teams, helping to support all of our international initiatives and members.
And I mean, we have talked about our international efforts on and off over the last few years, and it's exciting to see so much movement internationally. Gregg, tell us a little bit about how we support international healthcare revenue cycle solutions.
Sure. Thanks, Alex, and thanks everyone who's joined. It's really fun to be with all of you today, and look forward to this conversation. And I'd love to hear thoughts, questions that any of you have. So, when we think about AAPC International and the work that we're doing around the world, it really mirrors in a lot of ways the mission and focus of what we're doing here in the U.S., where our goal in any country, any market that we're working in, is to do anything we can to support and grow the medical coding, the field of medical coding. And so as we've become involved in more and more markets, usually that starts with us getting involved at a government or at a ministry level with some of the key decision makers who are involved in trying to make changes, move the healthcare system of that country forward, and engaging with them as partners, as subject matter experts, trying to help them get some of the those key foundational pieces that are involved in being able to develop medical codes, consistent ways to measure quality and cost, and payment structures. The things that we've known and kind of taken for granted here in the US, but really are foundational to how you develop high quality, cost-effective healthcare services. So we've really been fortunate to have the opportunity to get involved early on and at high levels with countries as they're trying to get some of those foundations in place. And then our involvement really is working with both hospitals, health systems, providers, and also with individuals. And how do we develop roles, consistent roles for medical billers and coders and auditors? And then how do we develop career opportunities and paths for individuals who are interested in moving into those roles? So how do we take either the credentials, we've developed here in the US and expand them to other countries, or how do we develop new certifications specific to markets that we're working in? So that just kind of at a high level.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this, Gregg. There tends to be a myth from US coders that international coding equals outsourcing, but this is not the case. And we are going in and helping other countries get the ball rolling on their end.
Yeah, no, that's a good clarification. Thanks, Alex. That so much of our focus now it is not about outsourcing coding, billing work from the US. It's about helping countries who are looking at developing their own health systems. And typically in a lot of these markets that we're working in, they up until this point, or up until recently, they really didn't have any consistent way to measure the quality of care, the cost of care, to consistently pay for care. And so it is, we're working on the healthcare systems within their country. We're working on training professionals within those markets to perform a lot of the same roles that our members do here in the States.
Now, I've heard in the past that some countries are on ICD-10 or I-9 still, and there's some lag, but does it seem that most countries adopt the US type of model?
Well, and I'll let Anita jump in on this. She has a lot of experience and expertise, but one of the challenges that we face is there's a lot of variation in the coding classifications, and even the coding, the version of a classification like ICD 9 or 10 or 11 or CPT that a country might use. And so trying to become familiar with what is currently being used and either change our tools or develop new tools around that is a challenge. And I don't know if you have other thoughts on that from your experience.
Yeah, well, I would like to comment on that question as well, because some of the countries, I mean, majority of the countries who have not yet decided on the classification systems, whether they should go in for the American or the Australian. Internationally, we are having a tie-up between whether it's American or Australian classifications that need to be adopted. So the countries which have not yet thought about the classification systems, they are just preferring to go with the WHO classification of ICD-11. In fact, many of the countries have already started using the ICD-11 for reporting purposes, especially because of the pandemic and all the issues that it created. And but apart from that, in the Middle East, we see a lot of most of the countries, trying to develop their healthcare system and trying to take speedy decisions on classifications. So the US classifications are being widely used, especially in countries like UAE, and you have Qatar, which is taking the US classifications for the outpatient side and Australian classifications for the inpatient side. Then you have Saudi Arabia, which is again going in for the Australian classification, and Bahrain also goes in for the Australian classification. Oman is totally into the US classification. So it's diversified out here as to which country is taking what classification, depending upon their country-wide specifications or the regulators' interests.
you brought up ICD 11 has been launched in several countries already. Lori Jaramillo, who's watching, pointed that out too. She said some countries are already using it. I thought the US would be cutting edge and being the first to roll this out. How come other countries roll it out first, and why is there a lag with US rolling it out?
Greg, I'll take that question.
Yeah.
The reason is because US is already, in terms of the revenue cycle or the billing system, US has already established itself with the ICD 10 as a classification. And the countries which are mainly using ICD 11 are using it only for the reporting purposes. They are not using it for any kind of billing or revenue generation, methodology. So as you can see, like the ICD 11, first thing is that the WHO has in fact pushed it out into the market to start using the ICD 11. Because of the pandemic, things got speeded up. It became faster than we thought about it. And that's one of the reasons why the countries outside US have adopted the ICD 11 prior to US. Because there's no billing mechanism in those countries where they are using the ICD 11. It's only for reporting and statistics.
Now, would you guys tell me a little bit about some countries who have had their own system for revenue cycle management, and maybe they're adopting a US style? Are there countries that we've been working with, or countries that you've witnessed making that transition in the recent past, or even now?
With respect to revenue cycle, it's pretty much a constant to speak of. The operational units pretty much are the same, but it only differs in terms of billing methodologies or charge mechanisms, or even insurance regulations, which are unique to countries. So if you say that countries are trying to mimic the US system, I would not agree to that, because every country has got its own way of dealing with the health system. And and that's where, the difference comes. You can't say that exactly it is the US system, but yes, classifications are from the US. Most of the guidelines we follow are from the US, but where revenue cycle management is concerned, it's pretty much country proven, especially for the billing methodology. But otherwise, all the units are the same. Operational units are the same.
I think, Alex, when we look at the different coding classifications that we see countries using, there are kind of three categories. There are a lot of countries who've developed over time their own classification. It's usually hard for them to make a change, like to adopt CPT or the Australian classification. You hear rumblings, that you hear of countries that are becoming interested in CPT. Usually it's for specific reasons, for reporting or to fill in gaps, but it's hard to make that change. Most of the interest we see are in countries that really haven't had an established system that they have been using. Or the other area that's interesting, it's countries who have adopted the Australian classification but have run into issues with it. And there are some gaps and shortcomings in the Australian, in the AAPC codes, the Australian classification. And so that is something that we have run into in multiple markets now, where countries have headed in that direction for a variety of reasons. They've gotten down that path and then and realized that CPT might be a more comprehensive, better option. So we're looking at do we need to stop and make a full change? Is there a way to? Often it involves some kind of blending of code sets and coming up with a country specific, which involves lots of work and is very hard to maintain. But that, and then the third category would be countries who are using CPT codes, and that's obviously areas that we're most focused on in our areas of expertise. And a lot of that, because up until not that long ago, CPT really was in the United States, and with the exception of a few other areas. So a lot of the newer interest in CPT is in the GCC region, or in the Middle East, in the countries that Anita mentioned. So that is where a lot of our focus is currently.
What's interesting is AAPC, we support existing coders with information and certification to show that they are up to date, and help provide those resources to those veteran coders. But we also train people to get into the field and start their careers. When we go into a place like Australia, it sounds like, and they may be using different methodologies. That means we have to learn those and prepare curriculum and training and information to support those professionals. And I'm sure there are probably thousands of professionals who already work in that career there supporting their system.
Sometimes we also find in a lot of these markets where there aren't existing career. One example that Anita mentioned is Saudi Arabia. That's a market that they've decided that they're going to use the Australian classification, and the revenue cycle and the medical biller and coder roles, the revenue cycle overall, and those specific roles really aren't that developed at this point. So it really is on top of. So in that case, we've developed a new a certification specific to Saudi Arabia. We have a training program that we're rolling out, but we're also working with partners there and with organizations to help. And this is a lot of work where Anita has expertise and is involved. Is how do we help organizations understand how you develop an effective revenue cycle program? How do you develop these roles?
Interesting. Now, we had a session at HealthCon, or panel discussion, where we had some international professionals join in and discuss what's happening across the globe with AAPC and our efforts there. And one, Brazil. I know we've been working with Brazil, and UAE is mentioned, and Australia. Are there any interesting countries or things that we could share with the members about some of the countries that we're rolling out into and trying to support?
Anita, do you want to share thoughts on that initially?
Yeah, fine. Well, we are working very closely with Oman, which is also getting into the US classifications with the ICD-10 and the CPT combination. And Oman is basically at the stage of rolling out their claims processing system. And very soon they will be entering into the certification process. So we are in that particular stage where we are moving forward into workforce development for the Oman market. Then another country to mention would be Qatar. Although it's a little bit of a chaotic situation out there, because in Qatar, as I said earlier, outpatient is being coded with the CPT, while inpatient is being coded with the Australian Archie. So there's a little bit of a chaos out there, but ultimately the ministry level plans to map it. I'm not sure exactly how that mapping is going to work out, because Archie, as we know, it can't be compared to the CPT in terms of volume of codes. So so that is a little bit of chaos out there. But otherwise, in general, we are looking at Oman, Qatar, and the Saudi markets currently. And we've done a little bit of a touch and go with the certification process for the Bahrain market as well.
Okay. So when we reach out and we're talking with healthcare officials in these other countries, do we also reach out if they already have established coders? Do we reach out to them and try to get a feel of how things operate on their level?
Yeah,
so interesting.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Anita.
Please go. So interestingly, the advantage out here in these areas, especially in the Middle East, to speak of, we have a majority of the coders coming from India and Philippines, so who are already getting their certifications back there, or they come here and they take their certifications. So many of these coders are already getting certified while they enter into the country. So those are the kinds of existing coders that we see in the market, and who already have one certificate and certification, and they are planning to progress themselves into the next certification. But the challenge mainly lies for the newcomers who have absolutely no idea about what does classification system mean and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Anita mentioned Oman. I think that's a good example at looking at how the different levels that we try to involve ourselves, and so we've been involved. Oman is adopting CPT, as Anita mentioned, and we have been involved with their at a ministry level in discussions, helping to move that work forward. Anita has had, has been very involved in that, has had initial information sessions for individuals in the industry who are interested in starting to learn more about medical coding. We are introducing the CPC into Oman, and we'll be providing training courses and the CPC credential there. And then Anita and I we're planning to go to a conference there in September, and part of that will be meeting with hospitals and providers, starting to understand in more detail what their revenue cycle processes look like currently, and how have things worked up until this point, and then how do we help that transition moving forward. But it becomes really important, to your point, Alex, to understand how processes work currently, and in order to be able to be part of how we move things forward. And that's what can be complicated, because each market is obviously unique, on top of just the coding classifications, but the way that the revenue cycle, the way that the payer market and provider markets have developed are different in every market. So, but it's important to get to know those in detail.
I feel like the international team is one of the smaller teams at AAPC, but the lift is huge. Like, to be able to go in, I guess at first you're just starting with discussions and trying to figure out how we can best support the system, but and then to move forward and have staff on our end that understands a healthcare system and how to best support the needs. It ramps up little by little, but that can be an enormous task.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the weight that I think we feel is we have over 40,000 international members now, and that number is continuing to increase at a faster and faster pace. And so as we are working in these new markets, as we are developing certifications and roles and developing these communities of members, we want to make sure we're providing them with the same level of support that members here in the States are receiving. And so how do we tap into the resources that we are developing? How do we develop communities both across AAPC and within these specific markets, so that whether it's the continuing education, networking, professional opportunities, that we're developing the same tools and resources that our teams here in the States do such a good job being able to offer. And so that piece of it can feel overwhelming too. How do we make sure that we're not just kind of staying on the front end and developing new things, but making sure that we're also providing the support and the foundation that our members need in all of these markets?
There's a lot of moving pieces to all of that. That's huge. Well, Gregg, I mentioned to you, I know a coder, an AAPC member from who lives in Florida. She's an immigrant. She's from South America. And when I was talking to her about our efforts in South America and how we are working with their governmental officials there and trying to help support them. She was excited, and it made me think there are probably many immigrants, from UAE or Australia, Philippines, wherever, who want to, who think, I know this trade, I know how to code, I understand it. I love to support my native country in their efforts. How would someone go about doing that?
Well, first of all, we would love to hear from you. So our international team, any of our team, we would love to, whether it's an email, Alex or anyone else at APC could put you in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you for a variety of reasons. One of them, we love to make the connection with our members. We love to hear about your background and experience, because there's things that we can learn that are important for us. And if possible, if it's, if you're from a country where we are involved, we'd love to get you involved, and whether that is making a connection to some of the government ministry decision makers, or we have partner organizations in most of the markets that we're working in. So Brazil, as an example, we're working with a company there called DRG Brazil. So most of our focus in Brazil is they're working to implement DRGs within the country. And so we have developed in partnership with DRG Brazil, a credential there and a certification exam, and are working closely with them to roll out that education and that credential. And so there's lots of opportunities in a country like Brazil to get connected, either with our partner there or through AAPC. We could, as we expand that work, could look for opportunities for you to be involved. So I specifically with our member from Brazil would love to connect with you and talk more and make connections. And I would say for any other members who might be either an immigrant from another country or with connections in another country, we'd love to hear from you and chat further.
Yes, if you have those connections or that desire, feel free to message me, AAPC Alex, on Facebook. Just send me a direct message and I'll put you in touch with Gregg and Anita, and they can help guide you along on that. Our friend Caitlin asks, is credentialing the same process internationally?
It is. It really is the same process as we have here in the States, in terms of the training involved, the exam, the ongoing education. We try to ensure that the process and the rigor around the credential is consistent, and it's impressive to see the weight that an AAPC credential holds internationally. We think we know the weight that it carries here in the States, but as we're dealing with governments, ministries, hospitals, and variety of partner organizations, our focus is making sure that the credential carries the same weight in these markets that we're working in. And I think it's exciting to see the extent to which we've been able to do that.
Okay.
So while credentialing is almost the same as Gregg has mentioned, the only challenge that we face internationally is that the classification systems, the version of the classification system may not change like how you have it in the US. In the US, pretty much every year we have new updates and a new version coming up as per the year. But in countries internationally, most of the countries internationally, they use a particular version for even a decade. Like in the UAE, we had been using 2011 codes until June 2018. So that is a big challenge, because when you're getting credentialed in the latest versions, because we credential for coders in the year which they are taking the credential in. But ultimately the work function or their job goes into a classification which is totally outdated, or you can say obsolete.
Caitlin says this, just for clarification, she's meaning credentialing process for providers with payers. She loves hearing other countries see the value with AAPC credentials. Any thoughts, Gregg and Anita?
With could you ask that one more time?
Yeah.
Just make sure I'm understanding.
She says, sorry, I should have clarified. I meant the credentialing process for providers with payers. I love hearing other countries see the value in AAPC credentials.
Anita, what's your experience with that in terms of the credentialing for providers?
So in terms of credentialing, like when you talk about AAPC credentials, we are very much recognized out here by the Department of Health, if that is what answers Caitlin's question. So the Department of Health is the one which dictates which are the credentials or which are the international bodies that can credential coders or other roles within the revenue cycle. And we have the Department of Health all over in UAE as well as in Oman and Qatar, who have mandated that credentialing should come from international bodies, and AAPC is one of those.
And I think, and if you're asking about at a provider level, and Anita would know more about this than I do, but it often, I would say, is handled more at a ministry or government level than I think we would be used to in the States, where it would be where that credentialing is done by providers. But that really would be country to country. That would vary in terms of what that process looks like. A lot of what the process that we're going through as we're implementing coding classification in country, it's helping to establish really an insurance industry. A lot of times it's either there's a healthcare is paid for by the government, by individuals. So part of developing this infrastructure is developing either introducing private payers or significantly increasing the role of private payers, and then the relationship that they have with providers, kind of creating, that's medical coding helps create a standard set of rules that allow payers to come into the market, which anyway, that's part of the work that we're doing as we're doing this.
Okay, through this discussion, what really struck me is, I mean, in addition to these big efforts to help other countries, is our efforts to create a path for new jobs in those countries for healthcare professionals in those countries to support their healthcare system. I think that's pretty awesome. And yeah, any thoughts on that, Gregg?
Yeah, that's the most exciting part for me about the work that we do and about being part of AAPC. It's a chance to help individuals either discover or move forward with a career, not only with specific opportunities, but start to get a vision for a path forward. And so anything that we can do in each of these markets to help and move individuals forward on that path is, I think it's why most of us do the work, and it's the most exciting part.
And we see it every day in the AAPC Facebook group. And as we hear feedback from our members, new members getting their first job. And this is just, I know we're scratching the surface of these international efforts, even though they've gone on for a few years and we've had some breakthroughs, but the process, it's not a quick thing. There's the turnaround to do this and establish ourselves in a country and support their professionals takes time and effort, and we are just diligently chipping away at that.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
All right. Well, we have just a few minutes left. Anita, I have a personal question for you. What do you love about your job, not just with AAPC, but in the revenue cycle, medical coding, all of it? What excites you about it and has kept you in your career for so long?
If you speak about AAPC, as Afi mentioned, it's a very flexible job, and it does not strain me to the extent, like that. I've had other jobs as well, so it does not strain me as much or pressurize me as much as I had in my other jobs. But yes, as a revenue cycle consultant out here, what excites me most is is that each provider has got their own way of managing their revenue cycle, and they have their own challenges. So to be able to unearth those challenges and to analyze those gaps is very interesting. So I've also done my health informatics in the master's in health informatics. So I find data analysis and the revenue cycle processes in itself, revamping those processes for the providers, an interesting and, it's a thrilling experience to speak of.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to work with both of you. And Anita, I don't get to work with you enough, so we need to create more opportunities to hang out and talk about international efforts. And I talk to Gregg weekly, and it's one of the best.
Too much for you, Alex.
Yeah, can we talk about that later?
Yeah.
No, it's a pleasure. You guys just hang on with me as we wind this down. Now, for those watching, I hope you found this discussion about our international efforts interesting. I think it's fascinating to see that the U.S., we aren't the only ones that we're trying to support. We're an international company, and we see the opportunities to help other countries be more efficient and have better qualified professionals in their revenue cycle careers. So if you're interested in that, and maybe you have relatives who live abroad, or maybe you have immigrated to the US and are coding for the US system, but would like to know how you could help your system, your native lands system, feel free to reach out to me, AAPC Alex, and we can put you in touch with Gregg and Anita. We will see you in 2 weeks. But until then, as usual, if you would like to catch this broadcast again, just go back to our Facebook page. You can see it there. It will also be posted on our podcast. If you go to your favorite podcast app and search the AAPC podcast, the audio will be placed there in the coming days. And you can listen to I Am AAPC interviews to hear how other healthcare professionals started their journey in the business of healthcare. So we will hope to see you in a few weeks, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next week or in 2 weeks.